Welcome everyone. We appreciate your attending our webinar today. We'll get started in just a few minutes. We do still have some people logging in, so we'll give them a chance to get signed in, and then we'll get started. It looks like we still have some folks logging in, so we'll give them a minute or two to get connected. Hopefully you're all able to hear okay and to see the screen. Okay, it looks like the logging in has come to a halt, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Kim Brown, and I'm with the Rural Institute Transition and Employment Projects. I'll be your moderator today. Today's webinar, Identifying and Communicating Support Needs, is sponsored by the University of Montana Rural Institute Transition and Employment Projects in partnership with Children's Special Health Services at the Montana Department of Public Health and Human Services. All attendees are currently muted. This cuts down on the background noise so that we can all hear our presenters better. If you want to ask the presenter a question, you can type your question into the chat box. We will have a question and answer period at the end of our presentation. So you can type your question in ahead of time if you'd like, but we won't be reading through those until the end after all of the presenters have had a chance to speak. For those of you who requested Montana Office of Public Instruction renewal units when you registered, those will be emailed to you after the webinar. It can take up to 2 weeks to get those out to you, and you do have to have pre-registered in order to receive the OPI credit. Please note that we're currently unable to issue other kinds of attendance documentation. Today's webinar is being audio taped for the Rural Institute Transition and Employment Projects Resource Library and also for the Rural Institute PLUC Online Transition Toolbox. And I'll put those website addresses for you in the chat box later on in the presentation. We will be sending you a survey link after today's webinar. It's a very short online survey, and we ask that you please take a few minutes to complete that. We really value the feedback that we receive from folks who attend the webinars, and we use what we hear from you to help improve the services and the training that we offer. So please do take the time to fill that out. We try to keep them short and simple. And with that, I'd like to introduce today's speakers and thank them for their willingness to present to all of us. First, we have Ellen Condon, who is the Director of the Rural Institute Transition and Employment Projects. And unfortunately for us, Ellen is on the road today, but she did pre-record her slides, and so we'll be able to hear the information that she wanted to share with us. And then live and here with us, we have McLean Birmingham and Isaac Baldry. And McLean and Isaac are both members of our Monturk, Montana Transition Training Information and Resource Center Advisory Board, which is also the Rural Institute Consumer Advisory Board. So we're really excited to have both of them present. They've presented a number of times for us and do a fantastic job. And with that, we will go ahead and get started.
Today's session is about getting to know your support needs and being able to communicate them to other people. We've got to think about all of us have some things that we're better at than others. Some of us are really good mechanically. I need somebody to help me when I have to do something mechanically. Some of us are really good with math and money. Some of us need support with math and money to pay our bills, to manage our money for the month. We all have different strengths and support needs. Part of what today's session is about is helping you with ongoing support needs or youth with impact of disabilities identify and feel comfortable with learning how their disability impacts them, what they're good at, and what supports would help them succeed. Today's session is about getting to know your support needs and being able to communicate them to other people. We've got to think about all of us have some things that we're better at than others. Some of us are really good mechanically. I need somebody to help me when I have to do something mechanically. Some of us are really good with math and money. Some of us need support with math and money to pay our bills, to manage our money for the month. We all have different strengths and support needs. Part of what today's session is about is helping youth with ongoing support needs or youth with impact of disabilities identify and feel comfortable with learning how their disability impacts them, what they're good at, and what supports would help them succeed in the work environment. So we want all of you to be comfortable identifying what you're good at and where you need help. And this would be a great activity for transition planning for all youth, even those without disabilities. So in addition to thinking about what you're good at and where you need help, figure out where are all the areas that you might need support. And again, all of us need support sometimes. It's not just youth with disabilities. So think about in a particular job, where are you going to need support? And how do you want to take responsibility for asking for that support? You know, when we disclose our disability and ask for support, it may actually lead us to look more confident. So we don't need to be fearful of looking incompetent or in need of support. We all need support. You know, part of where I need support at work is having somebody help me figure out new technology. If I have a really physically demanding task, I need somebody to help me lift and carry and move things. And sometimes I may need help figuring out our monthly budget for staff salaries. So how do we learn what we're good at and what helps us in terms of support to be successful? Well, in school, people give us feedback about what we're good at and areas that we need help. Our family tells us what we're really good at, and maybe our family's figured out what helps us get through the day really successfully. Maybe it's having a list of activities that we'll do before we get on the bus to go to school, and a list of activities written out for us for when we get home from school. Sometimes our employers also give us feedback about things that we're really good at. Like, wow, you're really good at quality checking your own work. And also part of our IEP meeting, our individual education plan, during that IEP meeting, our team members list our strengths and our abilities. And they also talk about some of our support needs. We need to be really aware of what our support needs are and strategies that help meet those needs so that we can ask for help when we need it. When we're in the community, when we're living in our own home or apartment, and also when we're going to work. Another way that we learn about what we're good at and what helps us to be successful is when we try out various work experiences while we're in school. Part of what the support staff are looking at or learning about you during those work experiences, and part of what we're hoping you're learning about yourself, is what tasks do you really excel at? Are you really good when you're up against a time crunch and you have to finish 100 pieces in the hour and a half that you're at that office job? Or is that a situation that you're really not good at and you'd like to avoid? It's okay if certain situations don't work for you. You just need to figure out which ones do work and which situations aren't the best for you, so that your support staff can help you figure out a job that's a really good match for you. And that if you do have support needs, that they can help you ask for them so that you're successful on the job. So also look at, what environment works for you. Do you work best in the morning? Do you work best in the evening or the afternoon? Do you work best when there's a bunch of people to socialize with at work while you're working, or next to one person who's doing the same thing, because that helps you remember to move to the next step when you finish your work? Or do you work best when you're totally by yourself? Also, what kind of tasks work for you or don't work well for you? Some people like to have the same task, so it's very consistent and predictable from day to day. Other people would get really bored in that situation. What the key is about today's webinar is, how do you figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you? Because the more informed you are, the more quickly you're going to be successful at work. And also the more successful you're going to be in requesting accommodations and support. There's a term called accommodations. And what that means is supports provided to enable you to perform more successfully at work. If you want the employer to provide accommodations to you at work, and employers are legally responsible to do that, but only if you disclose your disability. So what you need to do to be a responsible employee is think about what you want to disclose, because not all the information about your disability is work-related. Some of it's personal information, and you may choose not to disclose it. That's your business. So part of what we're hoping that you'll take away from this webinar today is thinking about what you want to share about your disability, about, most importantly, how it impacts how you work and what you need for support to be able to work most successfully. And for you to start thinking about how you would say what you need to an employer and what you would say. What do you want to share with them? This is another great transition planning activity. The 411 on disability disclosure is a wonderful resource. It's a workbook for youth with disabilities that was developed by the National Collaborative on Workforce and Disability for Youth in 2005. We're going to post that workbook on our website. So visit our website to download a copy of the workbook. And the website is http://ruralinstitute.umt.edu/transition. And the workbook will be housed in articles and products. Several of the upcoming slides about disclosure have been taken with permission from the workbook. Disclosure is the process of sharing information that was previously unknown. So when you talk to an employer about your disability and about the impact of your disability, that's disclosure. Now, this is a personal decision on your part to decide whether you want to share this information or not, and how much of the information about your disability you want to share. What we're going to give you examples of throughout the next part of the webinar is how people have shared what their impact of disability is in a way to ask for supports and accommodations from the employer. Now, the employers can't ask you about your disability label. However, you can choose to share that information if you want. What I'm going to recommend is that the information that an employer or a coworker really needs to know is how you get your job done, how you're going to perform your essential functions of the position, and what's in your job description. That's the piece that's more important than knowing the label that maybe is on some of your paperwork for school or at Voc Rehab. We all need to know how to best work with each other. And as you're going out in the workforce and negotiating a position and negotiating your support to be successful on the job, the most important thing that employer needs to know is how you're going to get the job done for him. And also, if you need to ask for support, what you need for support, and what strategies have you used in the past that really help you succeed.
I apologize. Our narration seems to have disappeared. So I'll just go ahead, and this is Kim, and I'll take Ellen's place. Some of the information about disclosure that she wanted to share. When you disclose information, you are very intentionally sharing information about yourself, and you're doing it for a specific purpose. So you want to think ahead of time what kinds of information you want to share with people, who you want to share it with, and when. Not everybody needs to know everything about you. And especially when you're talking about disclosure on a job, really think ahead of time about who is it in the worksite that needs to know information about me and why. How is it going to impact what I do for a job and what I do at work? And then practice ahead of time how you want to share that information. And it's really important to practice because sometimes if we're a little bit nervous about going into a work setting, for example, and disclosing information about our disability, we might get into our meeting with the employer and we might share more than we really wanted to just because we're kind of nervous. So practice ahead of time, and that way you can make sure that when you get in and are actually talking with your employer, you only share what you want and need to share in order to make sure that you're successful on the job. The kinds of things that you might want to disclose to an employer are things like how your disability impacts your learning and performance and the work that you're going to be doing on the job. You might also want to share information about strategies or supports that have helped you in the past and that are helping you right now. So some examples to share with you. I have difficulty processing verbal information, so I understand instructions best if my supervisor writes them down for me. I have a really hard time if I'm interrupted mid-task, and this one definitely fits for me. If I'm in the middle of working on a project and somebody comes in and asks me a question or asks me to work on something else for a few minutes, I really lose focus and lose track of what I was doing. So I work best if I can finish one task before I'm asked to start another. Another example might be I'm easily distracted. And so I work best if I have my own cubicle or my own office space where I don't see a lot of activity and commotion and hear a lot of noise going on around me. That would be really distracting and hard for me to concentrate. For me personally, I'm totally deaf in one ear. And so I need to work in an environment where there's not a lot of noise on the side of the ear that I can hear out of. If there is, it's difficult for me to concentrate, and it's also difficult for me to hear the things I'm supposed to hear because there's so much other noise coming into the one ear that I can hear out of. Okay, and it looks like we're back to Ellen, so we'll switch back over to her.
Here's an example of one of our Youth Advisory Board members, Natalia, who you guys have all heard before, presenting her portfolio and also participating in some of our previous webinars. This is how she discloses some information about her disability. She doesn't talk about her label. She talks about sometimes her speech is difficult to hear and to understand. If she uses a script that she writes herself to prompt her about what to say next, then she's pretty independent and will deliver the information that she wants to deliver. She uses that script to call on employers that she has in the community or employers that buy potholders from her, because it's her responsibility with her business to call up or to visit the employers and ask how many potholders they need for the order. The script also has a dual purpose. If the person doesn't understand her, she can show them the script and they can read it themselves. By sharing the information that she writes the script herself, it shows her confidence in her skills. It shows that she knows what she wants to say. Sometimes it's difficult for her to get the words out. That gives a very different impression of Natalia's confidence. How she learned that this was a strategy that worked for her was by participating in plays. She likes to participate in theater productions, and she's quite capable of memorizing her lines and delivering them when she's supposed to within the play. She's used that information to help her be more successful in the community and also at work. Another example of how Natalia or her representatives have disclosed information to help her be successful at work is when her job developers negotiated her tasks at Prudential, Missoula, a position that she just was hired into a couple weeks ago. When they were meeting with the supervisor, the owner of Prudential, Missoula, they talked about Natalia works best when she has a list of 3 different tasks to do during her time on shift. The hardest task should be first, and the next 2 tasks should be relatively easy for Natalia. That's how she does best on the job. They also explained that when you first teach Natalia how you want things done, that's the way she's going to do it forevermore. So we need to be really clear up front how the employer wants the task done so that they can teach Natalia the exact way to perform it from that day on. Because once she learns something, once she learns a task, a routine, a strategy, that's how it's going to be performed. So again, you're disclosing something about the impact of disability, but in a way that enables you to see the job seeker being confident and participating and working successfully. And if our whole goal of disclosing the impact of somebody's disability is to help negotiate supports that enable them to be successful, there's many ways that we can phrase the impact of disability so that we need the employer to envision that person being successful and also giving them information about how to help the person be successful on the job. Here are some other examples of what you might want to disclose or what some other job seekers have disclosed. And this is another disclosure by Natalia. She moves at her own pace. She does best with tasks that don't have a rushed time constraint. By sharing that with an employer, the employer can then pick and choose tasks that are going to enable her to be successful. So as the employer considered whether or not Natalia should be entering the information and cutting the checks for the real estate brokers for their commission, she then remembered, oh yeah, you said that Natalia doesn't work well under pressure and under a quick time constraint. That's probably not going to be a good match of a task because the brokers are chomping at the bit waiting for that check. However, there's all these other checks that need to be done. The information needs to be input into the computer about what was paid for each property that we manage for maintenance and various tasks. There's no time constraint there, so that would be a good match for her as a task. That came about by disclosing how she does best. It enables the employer to pick and choose tasks and support and develop her job so that she will be successful. Another example is somebody disclosed that some days I might forget the task I'm supposed to do next, even if I've been working here for 3 months. It would help me if one of my coworkers can remind me that I have a task list in my pocket if I'm kind of looking confused today. So what that does is that engages the coworkers in helping this person remember what they're supposed to do and help out at the employer or help out at the job. And also explains how the coworkers can help. If the coworkers don't have this information, they may just be looking at the employee saying, gosh, like they're not working very hard today, why are we paying them? However, if they understand how they can help the person work as part of their team, they're going to be far more likely to step in and help and still have a really good impression of who that person is and how they perform. Another example would be, from my wheelchair, I can't reach down into the shopping cart to pick up items that have to be returned. If a coworker can put them on my tray, I can return them any place in the store because I know where they all go. So again, instead of pairing the person who uses the wheelchair up with a one-to-one support, we've identified what their ongoing support need is, and if we can negotiate that or support them to negotiate that with our coworkers, it's not really a big deal to ask a coworker to help them lift items out of a shopping cart and put them on their tray. That frees the coworker up to keep working the customer service desk, while this young person puts all the go-backs back exactly where they go in the store, which is a huge benefit to the store. Another example, a young woman disclosed that when she gets anxious, it helps her if she can go stomp her feet really hard. And what she did was, then she asked her employer, who was the owner of the bakery, where could I stomp my feet where it's not going to cause the cheesecakes to fall? By disclosing this, she explains to her boss and to her coworkers that if she's stomping her feet, she's not angry. It's something that she does that helps her stay calm and also get refocused. And she looks super responsible because she's asking where she can do this that's not going to impact the cheesecakes that they're baking.
So this is Kim again. Just some of the ideas about the kinds of information that you might want to disclose. The environment, the supports, and the services that you'll need to access, participate in, and excel in your job or your school or in the community. So, for example, if you need to have just one person supervising you and mentoring you at work, that's something that you might want to disclose, as opposed to somebody who can handle lots of different supervisors, lots of different people, assigning them tasks, checking in with them. A consistent set of tasks that you do every day. So every day when I come into work, I know that I do the 5 things on this list, and that never really changes. Instead, other people may want their their tasks to change frequently, or else they have a hard time paying attention and staying focused on their work. They need things to move around a little bit. A job where I can move around every 45 minutes. If I sit still for too long, I tend to doze off, or I lose focus. It's hard for me to pay attention to what I'm working on, so I have to be able to get up and move around. Or maybe I have arthritis or another physical condition that makes it painful for me to sit still for long periods of time. Some people work better in the morning. Some people work better in the afternoon. Some of us work better at midnight. So if that's something that really impacts your performance on the job, that's something that you want to share with the employer. If you have a personal assistant who will be coming to work with you and doing pieces of your job that you're physically not able to do, that would be important to talk about with the employer ahead of time. Or a personal assistant who's helping you with personal care duties on the job. Again, the employer doesn't need to know the specifics about what that personal care assistant is doing, but they do need to understand why somebody else is coming into the workplace with you each day.
is an example of a young woman who has some ongoing support needs that she just needs help with, just some personal tasks that she can't do all on her own. So we could either choose to meet that need by having somebody with her, a paid staff person, every hour that she works, or maybe it's simple enough that she can just ask one of her coworkers to help her. For example, in the winter when she got to work, she couldn't take her own coat off. She just couldn't physically manipulate her arms out of her coat and then get it hung up in her locker. So what she did was she just asked one of her coworkers, would they be willing to do that for her? And it just wasn't a big deal. She was able to negotiate with them to help her take her coat off and also to reach items that she physically couldn't reach. She was doing go-backs at Walmart and Polson, and so her coworkers would take the items that needed to be returned out of the shopping cart because Carly couldn't reach from her chair down into the shopping cart, and they'd place them on her tray, and then she would deliver them all around the store. The only shelf that she couldn't place items on was the lowest shelf. And sometimes if an item was too wide or too heavy, Carly couldn't independently put it back. So what she negotiated with her boss and with her coworkers is that she would find the manager of the section of the store where that item would go, and she would ask them for help to put it back because she couldn't reach it. So she's still helping out the store by getting the items back to where they go, and she can do this independent of a paid person with her all the time, just by identifying what she needs to be successful there, and also what are some strategies that could do that for her so that she could be performing work that benefits the employer. So why do you want to disclose information about your disability? If you need accommodations to perform the essential functions of your job, you are going to have to disclose that you have a disability and what accommodations you need to be successful, and also be able to offer some strategies that have worked for you in the past. If you're somebody that has ongoing support needs, you are very capable of working for a paycheck in the community. But we're going to have to figure out how to meet some of those support needs at work. Ideally, your job developer is going to know what works for you and what doesn't work for you up front so that we're placing you in the best match of a job so you have the least additional support needs. However, many of us have ongoing support needs to get through the day, to get through our jobs. So what we're hoping you take away from today's webinar is thinking about what are your support needs? What environments are you most independent in and most successful in? How do you explain your support needs to your coworkers and to your supervisor? And how are you going to explain what you need to be successful before you get the job, once you get your job, and as new tasks and challenges come up at your place of employment? Also, we're encouraging you to really practice what you would like to share for information. And maybe like Natalia, you write it down in a script so that you look really comfortable and confident sharing the information about what you need for support. And again, sharing the fact that you need support to be successful at work, this isn't going to make you look less confident. It actually may make you look more confident and more reliable and more mature as an employee, knowing what you need and taking the lead in asking for it so that you can be successful for your new employer.
Well, thank you very much, Ellen. And again, we apologize that Ellen wasn't able to be here today. And I also apologize for some of the technical difficulties during her portion of the presentation. We will eventually get better at the narrated PowerPoint, I hope. With that, I'd like to introduce our next speaker, McLean. And McLean and I will be doing an interview for his portion of the presentation. Are you there, McLean?
Yes, I am.
Great. Well, good afternoon, McLean, and thanks for agreeing to share your experiences and your expertise with our audience today.
You're welcome.
So, McLean, could you start by just telling us a little bit about yourself?
I am a graduate of Polson High School and a published author. I am active in church. I have earned my Eagle Scout badge. And I put together a blood drive for my Eagle Scout badge, and I have volunteer at high school basketball games.
Hey, McLean.
So, yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
So I am the water boy at the games.
Oh, so what does that mean?
I will fill cups for the team, and I'll give them out to the players that need it as they come in for a rest.
Great. And how many badges did you earn to get your Eagle Scout badge?
23.
Wow. That's amazing. Good for you. How about other things that you've done or been up to?
I entered a logo contest in 2010, and I designed the logo which shows the logo in the picture, and I entered the contest, and my logo got chosen, and so I got to go on a trip to Arlington, Virginia. And I have volunteered at St. Joseph's Assisted Living. I am an advisory board member for the Monturk Board. I am active and committed work member of the board.
Sounds like you're a busy guy.
Yes, I am. And I really like and love to collect CDs, video games, and DVDs. I am a sports fanatic. I like pro baseball, football, basketball, hockey, and WWE wrestling and TNA wrestling. And I am a Grizz and Folsom Pirates supporter, and I love cats and dogs, and I have a passion for that.
All right. And so where do you live?
I rent my trailer from my grandpa.
Okay. And so did anybody help you learn how to take care of the rent check and those kinds of things?
Yes, my parents and teachers.
Okay. So is that a picture of you doing what?
I am writing a check out to my grandpa to pay my rent.
Okay. So McLean, have you had any work experiences like back when you were in school?
I have worked at the library, St. Joseph's Assisted Living, Mainsail Video, Top 40 Video, Odyssey Auto Glass, and various offices in the Lake County Courthouse, such as the Tax Department, the Clerk and Recorder's Office, Kim,
Yes?
my thing disappeared.
Uh-oh.
It says your webinar session should start in a few seconds. It went to the black screen, and I hit the space bar to try and get the thing to show up again because it worked before, and now it says download complete. Your webinar should start in a few seconds.
Okay, well, while it's reloading, you and I can just chat for a minute. There were a couple other work experiences I think you had. Did you do something at one of the schools?
Yes, I did. I was a literacy tutor for the elementary kids.
Okay. And then what about the Humane Society? Did you ever do anything, any volunteering or anything there?
I took dogs out on a walk, and I would take them out for a walk for exercise so they could get out, get fresh air, and stay healthy and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So it sounds like you had a lot of work experiences and some volunteer experiences while you were still in school. Did those help you learn about what kinds of supports you needed so you could be successful on the job?
Yes, it did.
Can you think of some of the things that you learned that help you to do well at a job?
Yes, I have worked at What's the question again, Kim?
The supports. Did you learn about any of the supports that you need? Like you talked, I think, before about you had a job coach who kind of helped you figure out how you best learned a new job and, you know, what would work best for you on a job. Do you remember those things? Like about the abstract or literal, clear instructions?
I need a job coach.
What did the job coach help you do?
They will help me learn the job if I need it. They will talk to my employer, if I need help with things there, or they'll help me do the work, and they'll just be there in case if I need some extra help at work.
Okay. So what about paid jobs? Have you had any jobs?
Yes, I have. I have worked at Safeway as a courtesy clerk, and I have worked at the public library.
Okay. And what work are you doing right now?
And I work for Premier Designs high fashion jewelry.
Okay. So at your jobs that you've had, like at Safeway and the library and Premier Designs, did you learn more about what some of your support needs are?
Yes, I need to know exactly what my employer wants.
Okay. So
meaning that I need not just a list that's saying, okay, I need to go show books. I need a list that says, okay, I need to put this away and put them in a certain category or specific directions that I need to do. Like, for example, like I do paper and pencil, and which base says on my list, I need to refill the scratch paper and sharpen pencils, and so then that way they're sharp, so for people to use when they want to take notes or write stuff down.
okay, so you're saying that if the employer just wrote down pencil and papers, that would not be enough information for you, right?
Right.
Okay, thank you. So what are then some of the other supports that work for you? You talked about a few, and I should ask, can you see your computer screen yet?
No. No, I cannot.
Okay. So I'll ask you the question again, and then we can kind of work from what I'm seeing in front of me that you shared with me before. What are some of the other supports that help you be successful on the job? And one that you just shared was that you need clear instructions and clear expectations and clear rules so that you understand what people want you to do, right?
Yes.
Can you think of some of the other supports that you need?
I need a job coach to help me when I need help. I need co-workers there, so if I have questions, I can ask questions when I need some help, or if I'm not sure on something.
Can you just sit still for a really long time at a job?
No, I cannot.
What happens if you sit still for too long?
I fall asleep.
Okay, so you need to be able to get up and move around a little bit?
Yes, I do.
Okay. What about food? Is there anything around food that's important?
If I have, I have, if there's food around, I cannot concentrate.
Okay. So it's important for there not to be food in your workspace?
Yes.
Okay. What happens if you start to become frustrated at work? What does the person who's with you, the coworker or the employer, what can they do to help you if you're getting frustrated?
I need someone to talk to me, to talk to, or take a walk with me.
Okay. And how about after you've finished a job? Does it matter if the employer tells you you've done a good job or not? Is that important to you?
Yes, I do like to know when I've done good.
Okay. All right. So now that you know about your different support needs and you learned about them from your work experiences and from your jobs and from school and from home, how do you use what you know about your support needs to decide which businesses you're going to approach about employment? That is, how do you find employment settings that will let you be at your very best?
I talk to friends. I talk to and I go to the employer.
Okay. So do you actually go visit the business and see if it looks like it might be a good fit for you?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And then let's say that you've found a business that you want to work at. How do you describe your support needs to employers?
Excuse me. I am an advocate for myself, and I have a job coach that can help explain things better if I need help explaining things.
So are you and your job coach kind of a team?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Do you have a portfolio?
Yes, I do.
So is that another tool you can use to talk about your supports?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And I can use that, and I can show pictures, and I can use that to help me give a speech if I need to, or and help the employer see more of what we're talking about.
Okay. And you mentioned from the start that you're a good self-advocate, that you can talk about what you need. And I just want to echo that I agree you are a very good self-advocate. You have left me phone messages before, haven't you, where you've explained exactly what you needed from me in order to help you do your advisory board and your presenting work, right?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. Okay, so McLean, do you have any other thoughts that you want to share with our audience today?
Yes. Believe in yourself and never give up, and keep trying and enjoy your blessings.
All right. Well, thank you very, very much, McLean. We really appreciate you presenting, especially since you couldn't see the slides for most of that time. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Okay, and with that, we'll move on to our third presenter, Isaac Baldry. Oh, sorry. We have a couple of slides in here before Isaac gets going. You saw a picture earlier of Carly during Ellen's presentation, and the photo that you saw earlier was years ago. I think it was in 2000 when Carly was working at Walmart. This is a more recent photo of her, and Carly was one of our advisory board members. She's since retired from the board, and she was hoping to be able to present with us today, and we were hoping that we could have her, but she's taken with the flu. So she did agree to let us share a little bit of information about her story and how she identified support needs. And what Carly and her mom have shared with us is that they believe identifying support needs starts at birth, that parents and family members are always looking at how can we help our son or daughter be successful, how can we help them thrive, how can we help them participate in all of the activities that they want to participate in. And as young people with disabilities, you're always learning that information about yourself. And so paying attention to what you're learning. And then Carly's family has always had really high expectations of Carly. They've always worked with her to help her be as independent and as active in her community as possible. And so along that path, they've really paid attention to what are some of the things that Carly needs in order to participate fully and in order to be as competent as she can be and in order to excel in the things that she's doing. When Carly had 2 years left in school, she started participating in one of the Rural Institute transition projects that was focused on customized employment. And as part of that project, a team of people worked with Carly to learn about her strengths and her interests, her ideal working environments, the supports that worked for her, connections that she had in her community. That was all part of this process called Discovery. And so through Discovery, her team had the opportunity, and Carly had the opportunity as a member of her own team, to learn even more about what supports would help her to be successful. During high school, she had 2 community-based work experiences, and she had a variety of in-school jobs. And as McLean just explained to you, and as Ellen mentioned earlier, work experiences and jobs are great places to learn additional information about the supports and the accommodations that can work for us. Carly owns her own home-based card and calendar business called Carly's Workshop, and through her business has learned additional information. What pieces of the business does she need some help with? What pieces of the business does she need to completely farm out to somebody else? Because they're pieces that either she can't do or that she's not interested in doing. And one of the other things that Carly and her mom did was that they started working with Carly to direct her own personal care attendant program at a very young age. So she was at a very young age learning to to direct her paid staff to do the things that she wanted and needed them to do, and to make choices in terms of what kinds of services she was receiving. So as they gathered all of this information about Carly, and as she graduated from high school, moved out into the adult world, one of the things that was really important to her was the opportunity to live on her own and to have her own home. Now, there were a number of agencies involved who looked at Carly and said, there's no way that she can safely live on her own. That's just not a good idea. It's not going to be able to happen. She was even referred to Adult Protective Services at one point because it was seen as just this really unsafe idea to look at her living on her own. So what Carly and her mother did was they prepared responses to every objection that was raised about why Carly couldn't live on her own. Anytime somebody said, well, what about a fire? What about this? What about a medical emergency? They came up with a support that would take care of or address that safety concern. And so ultimately, Carly is living on her own now and absolutely loving it. Some of the supports that she has in place in order to safely live on her own include her home is next door to her mom, and so her mom is right there if she needs someone to come over and provide immediate assistance. She has an emergency alert button. There's a high-powered intercom that's always on between Carly's house and her mom's. She has a big emergency fire exit window. It's a large sliding glass window right beside her bed so that if there were a fire, the fire department could come in and the firefighters could pull her right out of that window and take her to safety. There are signs outside of her house to indicate to emergency responders that she would need assistance to exit her house. Her intercom is right next to her bed, so she can easily access that. She has some special large surge protectors, and that was a safety support that the fire marshal requested. There is a record at the fire department about where Carly lives and just about the fact that she would need some extra assistance to get out of her home in the event of a fire. There are fire alarms throughout the house. As you can tell, fire was one of the biggest safety concerns, so Carly and her mom built in a number of supports to address that. And then as you can see in this picture, the other thing that they did was created this emergency table where they velcroed all of the things that Carly might need immediate access to the table. So she has on this medical table that will slide right over so she can reach everything, her emergency alert button, her cell phone, her communication device, and the remote controls for her different entertainment systems. So this was a way that Carly took all of the information that she and her family had learned about her support needs from the time she was born and used that information to strongly advocate for herself and for her right to live in the community as she chose to live, which was on her own. With that, I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Isaac Baldry. Excuse us just a sec. Isaac's narration isn't working here. It was, so bear with us for a moment. Isaac, I have you live. Do you have access to your speaker right now? Okay.
I am getting paid to speak.
Okay, excuse me just a sec. We'll start that one more time.
So back to what I do for work. Get this. I get paid to speak. I am getting paid to speak to you right now. None of that makes sense if you think speaking only means using your mouth. talk about doing things differently. I work for the Montana Transition Training and Information Center, MTTIRC. That is what I am doing today. I work for the Montana Youth Leadership Forum, MYLF. For them, I talk to schools about the Summer Leadership Program. I am presenting at the Montana Youth Transitions Conference in November for both these jobs. Lastly, I work for myself as an independent speaker. Working independently, I have had to be able to tell people what I need and how I do things. I think that is a big part of understanding your disability. You have to know what you need, and you have to tell other people your needs. Working for MTTIRC, MYLF, and speaking for Special Olympics has helped me learn what I need in order to be able to do a presentation. If I am going to do a presentation or speech, people who hire me need to know that I use an augmentative communication device. It becomes really important that the listener know that if I am going to talk with someone on the phone, speaking on the phone is one of the most difficult things for me to do. I prefer to communicate either by email or text message. I tell that to people when I am trying to arrange a speaking engagement. Sometimes they will communicate the way I prefer, and sometimes they insist on speaking over the phone. Right now, I am working on getting a job as a keynote speaker at the Dare to Dream conference in South Dakota. I have emailed with them and sent my portfolio so they know I speak with an augmentative communication device. They still want to speak in person on the phone, so I will be doing that with them. I have programmed in my Prolo quote ago on my PAD what I may need to say over the phone. I will tell them that I prefer yes-no questions so that I can respond more quickly. After speaking on the phone and the other person having to think about how they can phrase their question in a yes-no format, they usually decide email is easier to. The other reason I like to do planning in emails is so that I can go back and review what was decided. I am very organized. I need details planned out in advance. I like to have everything done and arranged at least a week before I am to present. I need to have plenty of time to write my speeches. If I feel pressured because of a time deadline, I get anxious and can't think to write. I also get stressed when I am working with people who don't like to have a plan or are not worried about the details. I have learned that for me, I need to have the organization so that I feel comfortable and can be successful. I am often the one emailing people, asking for information and a clear plan. It is okay that I do that. It is what I need for me. I can then relax and focus. I am such a planner. I try and think of every detail. I even need at least one backup plan for things that might not work. I often worry that my eco will not work, that it will freeze. It is a problem I have had with the device. I always have my speeches backed up on my computer and in Win, so that if the echo won't work, I still can. This was really important when I was in Denver speaking this last June. My fear literally came true. My eco would not work. We tried a few things to fix it, but it just would not cooperate. Here I was in a room full of people who had paid for me to come and speak, and my primary way of doing speeches was out. Fortunately, because I had planned on demonstrating all the ways I speak, I had the computer with Win all set up for when I was going to use it for part of my speech. Now, I would have to use it for all of my speech. I did, and it worked. I think it is because I am used to things not working that I like to have thought about how can I do this and what might be another way. If my first attempt is not successful, not everything works out the way you plan. When I am arranging a presentation, I have to think about details. I also have to communicate what I will need. The first thing I check is the calendar. Am I available? Do I have time to prepare? After that, I try and work out two pieces with them, my presentation and travel plan. For the presentation, I need to know what they want me to talk about and how long I am to present. For travel plans, I have to think about how far. Will I drive or fly? By the way, I don't yet drive a vehicle, so that is another piece I have to arrange. Driving somewhere is easier to plan. I check with Mom to see if she is available. That way she can be my driver, personal care assistant, and technology support. Those are all things I need help with when I travel. I tell that to people when I am listing my supports needed to come and present. I have to have an assistant for what I am not physically able to do, and those expenses are part of my fee. I also have to tell them that I need a wheelchair-accessible hotel room with 2 beds. If I am going to be there more than one night, I ask for a roll-in shower. I have to discuss with them if they are paying me per mile to drive, or if that needs to be part of my fee. I also have to remember meals. I like to eat on a regular schedule. I have to find out if meals are provided where I am presenting, and how many meals will I need traveling. I have to include this in my fee, and I have to remember my assistant. She gets crabby when I don't feed her. If I am flying, there are additional things to think about. So far, I have not flown with my personal power wheelchair. The company that makes my chair, Pride Mobility, has helped me out. They help to arrange a power chair, like mine, to be available when I get to where I am flying. That way, neither one of us have to worry about my chair being damaged in the cargo bay of an airplane. This has been a huge help to me. I use my push chairs for gate-to-gate delivery. I have to ask for this, but the airlines have always made sure my chair was there to get me off the plane. From the airport, I have to arrange an accessible taxi to take me to my hotel. Last time, I thought the people having me come had arranged this, and they thought that I had arranged it. No taxi. I don't like to wait. I had to wait while they could get one to the airport. I will go back to making sure I always have made the reservation. I made one for myself to get back to the airport for my return trip home. Just another detail to take care of. I also have to remember to include this in my expenses for coming, or it comes out of my pocket. The same with luggage fees. They are an expense I need to count toward my coming. It gets to be a lot of expenses that I have to remember when I set my fee, or I will not make what I thought I was going to. After we have discussed all my supports needed to travel and what my fee is going to be, I have to confirm that I am hired. When we have an agreement, I will put it on my calendar. Now I have to start working on my presentation. I schedule time on my calendar for myself to work. I pick times when it will be quiet at my house. I don't like to be interrupted when I am writing. I ask people not to call me. I put myself on my schedule so she will make time to help me brainstorm what I want to write about. I have her write down thoughts and ideas so that I can go back and make sure I included them in my speech. I go back to them when I get stuck as to what I wanted to write. I try to set periods of time to write so that I can't take breaks. I can write for about an hour, but then I need to get away from it. I like to take time to think about what I want to write about next, or how I feel about what I have written. When what I have written is getting long, I like to go back and time what I have. Hopefully, I have enough, or I have to go back and think about what I can add. Sometimes I already have them written down, and I just needed to know how much more I was going to include. If there is going to be a question-answer period, I ask people to use a yes-no format so that I can easily answer them. I include this comment at the end of my presentation. People don't always listen. Sometimes you have to tell them again what you need. I also try and thank people for listening. The reason I like to be done at least a week in advance is there are a lot of other details to think about before a presentation. I like to practice and make sure everything is working the way I intended. I have to plan what I am going to wear. I think a shirt and tie look professional and are important. What room am I presenting in, and is there an accessible path to where I will be? What time am I scheduled to present? Is someone else speaking? And if so, who is speaking first? When do I speak? At the location, I check to see if all my equipment is still working. Does it work with the sound system? And lastly, are my backup plans ready? As you can see, I worry about a lot of details. That is why I can never eat just before a presentation. If I am speaking over a meal, I wait to eat until I am all done with my presentation. That way the butterflies in my stomach and the food don't have a fight. I am learning, as I travel, what I need to ask for. My next trip is to Canada, and they don't have the ADA requirements there. I am driving because the bus everyone else is taking is not wheelchair accessible. I have already been in contact with the hotel to discuss what I need. I can't plan for all the places we are going, but I am trying to arrange to bring a portable ramp. I have checked, and the electricity and plugins are the same, so I will have power to charge my wheelchair. I am checking into phone options. Right now, it is 69 cents a minute, and I have to activate international calling. I have another idea. I am not planning on giving a speech, so I am not taking the Echo. I can't live without my computer, so I am bringing it back. I plan on using the iPod and P2 Go to speak. Have sent some suggestions for words. I will try to be spot on, have no worries, and wish everyone cheers. Thanks for listening. My name is...
Thank you very much, Isaac. That was wonderful. I'm sorry that last slide cut off. It did in the pre-recorded version too for some reason. And thanks for all of your work on that presentation. It was fabulous, and your Canadian is spot on. Well done. A couple more resources, or one more resource rather, to share with you, making the move to managing your own personal services, the toolkit, excuse me, I have to move that so I can read it. A toolkit for youth with disabilities transitioning to adulthood. This is available through the National Collaborative on Workforce and Disability Youth, and the website where you can access that is on the screen in front of you. And we will be posting these slides as a PDF file to our website. That may take a couple of weeks, and the audio recording will be posted as well. And with that, we'd like to go ahead and open it up to questions. I know that some came in earlier, so we'll try and take a look and see what questions are out there. And while we're waiting for the questions, I'm going to go ahead and unmute our presenters. And please remember, as Isaac said during his presentation, that yes/no questions work best for him. And you can type your questions into the chat box. I'm going to type our website in there real quickly. And let's see if we have any questions yet. Okay. Looks like we have a couple here. One of the questions had to do with the audio, and that was during our first... Had to mute you there again, Isaac. Sorry about that. It was a little tough to hear. The first question had to do with the audio during Ellen's presentation, and we again apologize for the difficulty in hearing that. With the pre-recorded narration on PowerPoint, if the speaker doesn't keep a really even tone of speech and an even volume, it does tend to fade in and out a bit for the listeners, and you have to turn your volume up and down. We apologize for that. Over time, I think we'll get better. We try not to do a lot of pre-recorded presentations, but every now and then it happens, and we do have to do those. So again, we apologize. And question here, can I just listen and use Instant Messenger to respond? Absolutely. Thank you from the students at Capitol High School. Go Bruins. I was a former Bruin, so yeah, go Bruins. Way to go. And go Bengals too, in case there are any Bengals out there. Does anyone have any questions for either McLean or for Isaac? We do have them both on the line, or I can answer questions if you have any for me. Just go ahead and type them into your chat box if you have anything you'd like to ask. And again, yes, no is best for Isaac. Don't see anything coming in yet. I'm getting the website typed in here for you. Okay. Good job, Isaac. Came in. While we're waiting to see if anybody has any additional questions, I do have just a bit of closing information for you. A reminder that the web-based evaluation link will be sent to you after today's call, and we really hope that you'll take a few minutes to fill that out for us. We do pay attention to the information and try to make each session that we present better than the last, if at all possible. We do have another, and after this one, it will definitely be possible. We had a number of technical problems, and apologize for that. Our next webinar will be Work Experience in Rural Areas, and that will take place on November 15th from 1 until 2:30 Montana time, Mountain Daylight Time. And that will be, the flyer and the registration for that will be going out in the next week or so. So if you are a member of the Montana Transition Listserv, you will be receiving the flyer for that. If you are not a member of the listserv, you can visit our website, and the flyer should be posted there again in about a week. One of the questions that just came in, when will the 411 workbook be posted? Unfortunately, I don't have the answer to that. It just depends on how soon our website person can get that up. And so hopefully within 2 weeks, but I don't have a definite date. I'm sorry about that. The recording from today's webinar will be posted on the Rural Institute website and also on the Pluck Rural Institute Online Transition Toolbox site, and I'll type that in just a moment as well. The PDF file of the slides will also be posted. That will be on the Transition Project site, so if you're interested in copying off the slides or one of the slides or capturing any of the resources off of the slides, you can access the PDF file. And I'm putting in the Pluck Rural Institute Toolbox website address right now so you can see that. one more chance for questions. Anybody else? Okay, well, thank you all very, very much for your participation and your patience today. And thanks to Isaac, to McLean, to Carly, and to Ellen for their wonderful presentations that they shared with us and for their information and expertise. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and we really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.